What attracted you to this particular project?
A couple of components, Michael. I'm a big fan of Kevin Reynolds. He's a veteran filmmaker, and he produced a wonderful story and a different take. It didn't feel like a Bible movie. And what I loved was there's this rather oblique angle where we see and visit the narrative of Christ, but through the eyes of a non-believer. And that to me was fresh. And I also really like the idea that it starts out more like a detective story than a Bible movie, in that Clavius is charged to investigate the missing body of Christ, which he thinks is a hoax. And his investigation takes him through a series of rabbit holes where he comes to understand that this is much bigger and much more mysterious than he could ever imagine.
And your character, Clavius, what is it about him that you respect the most?
I think I went to gladiator school in Rome to get into shape. And what I learned from that experience was the gladiators taught the Roman military many of their techniques. And what I found was that the way that they fought was the way they thought. They were surgeons on the battlefield. They were economical. They were brutal, and the way they took down their enemy was very precise. They were a machine. And so he thought like a machine, and I really took away an understanding of the Roman kind of life in the military, and that was a big learning for me.
So when you started this movie alongside other talented cast members like Cliff and Tom Felton, can you talk about working with them and what experience was like on set?
Well, I loved working with Tom and Cliff. They've become really good friends of mine. And they go on wonderful arcs. So Tom's character, Lucius, goes on a wonderful arc. He looks up to Clavius. I think Clavius is a little bit like, how did this kid get, such a high rank without doing anything? It's because his dad knows somebody, So I love that introduction to the character. And he goes on a full circle where he looks up to Clavius and then Clavius lets him down. And Tom does that beautifully. And then working with Cliff was extraordinary. I think it's the first time, or one of the few times, casting has got it right. I mean, we don't have a blue-eyed blonde Jesus, and I think that is fresh and appropriate. And Cliff delivers him with such spirituality and such presence and stamina. It's a wonderful performance.
And you also film many of the desert scenes in Spain and Malta. How important is that when you put that locations in the movie?
Well, I think the locations are kind of like characters, and that it's vital that we take the audience on a journey and we lift them by the collars and we deliver them into Judea in that time. And those locations, such as Malta and Spain, give us an authenticity, and I think that's part of the success of the film.
And lastly, when fans and audiences go watch this movie, what do you really want them to take away from this?
I would love an audience to take away a discussion on faith, a discussion on forgiveness. And you don't have to be religious or a believer to have those discussions. I would love audiences that are non-believers and believers to share the auditorium together, because we see so many films that are either just for the faith communities or just for, or not for the faith communities. And this film, for me, strikes a balance, and I pray and hope that we can get a cross-section.